The Inclusive Classroom, a Field Experience Reflection. Hi, I'm Trina Thompson. My placement was at Morton Elementary School, located at 485 Old 30 in Jacksonville. This was my second placement for this field experience. I had the opportunity to interact with students in the third grade classroom. I spent 8 hours at Jacksonville Commons Elementary, located at 1121 North Commons Drive, also in Jacksonville. This was my original placement in a first grade classroom. Most of my visits to Morton Elementary were between 2 and 4 p.m. However, I did spend an entire day there and also snuck over on one of my lunch periods. Teresa Blakely was my partnership teacher. This is my second field experience with Miss Blakely. I had the pleasure and opportunity to observe and participate in numerous curricular subjects, including math, reading, writing, science, and social studies. In Miss Blakely's classroom, she only has 10 desks that are placed in 2 groups of 5. She has created what she calls flex seating. Flex seating consists of closet doors encased by thin sheets of plywood and covered with contact paper. They are held up by crates where students' binders and journals are located. The students don't sit on the doors, but use them as a desk while sitting on the floor. There is no seating chart. You can see in the top right picture that the students' backpacks are resting on the closet doors at the end of the day. These doors are also used as computer desks for students. The emphasis in the classroom is to keep students together and interacting with one another as often as possible. There are 21 students in this room, 10 boys and 11 girls. You will be surprised to learn that in my field placement at Morton, there are no students with an IEP or diagnosed disability. This is not because one student would not qualify, but that the parents refuse to allow any testing of their child. 12 of the students are Caucasian, 6 are African American, 1 is Hispanic, and 2 are multi-ethnic. The students are between the ages of 8 and 9 in Miss Blakely's third grade classroom. Above the door is where Miss Blakely's rules are posted. She uses the Morton Mustang's behavior expectation scale that is similar to a stoplight behavior system. However, Miss Blakely will let students know when their color is moved, and she keeps a record at her desk that is not visible to others or anyone that may come into the room. The other Morton expectations defined appropriate behaviors and procedures for just about every situation and area at the school. Mrs. Blakely does not have teacher-made rules posted in her classroom. The rules are applied evenly and fairly to all students. She holds her students to the highest expectations in terms of behaviors. The students are expected to treat each other with respect and kindness and follow all directions. In addition to the combined school and classroom rules, Miss Blakely utilizes a classroom token system she calls Scholar Dollars to reinforce positive behavior and effort by all of her students. Students chose at the beginning of the year how often they would shop. They chose Christmas and June. One of my favorite ideas is the jobs board as part of her classroom management system. I know this is not a new concept, but the way she implements some of the jobs is pretty amazing. For example, she has 2 docents. One leads a line wherever they go, and one brings up the rear of the line. She communicates with these students through hand signals. She told me that she always knows if she has all of her students because she can look and see her 2 docents. If a student stops to tie a shoe, the last docent does not continue on without that student. The first docent never goes around a corner until the other docent is at the end of the line or without the teacher's permission. Although Ms. Blakely is not currently utilizing an alternative behavior management system for individual students, she has used point sheets in the past for this, and so have I. To facilitate the use of differentiated instruction and promote an inclusive classroom, Ms. Blakely provides different students with different learning avenues and paths to success. One such example would be through the use of books on tape, using headphones for students that are reading below level. Another use for this method is to introduce advanced students to more difficult reading. Students seem to enjoy this technology tool, and I witnessed some relevant and meaningful discussions taking place among the students with comprehension questions. As part of Ms. Blakely's effort to meet the needs of all of her students, specially designed instruction materials are made available to address the learning progression of her students. For example, in this picture, students have access to color-coded Daily 5 math. Students working in a yellow group must slow down and revisit the concept or facts. Groups of green students are able to push forward through the material more quickly. Another example in meeting the needs of students includes Ms. Blakely providing 2 spelling tests each week. All students receive and work on the same high-frequency words, but not all receive the same spelling words. To give students choice in their learning, they are allowed to take practice tests on notebook paper or online. Ms. Blakely is a seasoned teacher, and her use of teaching strategies is numerous. She facilitates whole group and especially small group instruction throughout the day. Students change subjects every 35 to 45 minutes in what she calls cafe rounds or centers. Students work collaboratively in small groups most of each day. She utilizes a literacy cafe menu wall to reinforce strategies for reading. Each morning, the teacher has a message on the board for her students. This message lets the students know what they need to take care of first thing in the morning. Her students know what her expectations are so well that she can write, and I quote, "take care of business," and they know exactly what she is talking about. Unpack your book bag, put your lunch boxes away, write your name on your snack, sign up for lunch, and get your homework checked off by her. The Daily 5 reading and math plays a large role in learning success of her students. It is a great strategy to use in classrooms to meet learning needs by allowing students to revisit curriculum when necessary. For this student, for data collection, my target behavior was that the student is out of his seat, off task during instruction. For example, walking around the room, looking out the window, at others' desks, or at the trash can. The data collection methods I used were the partial interval, duration, and frequency recording. The replacement behavior for the student was that he would remain in his seat and on task during instruction and independent work. My recommendation and next steps were that the student be given 3 passes per day to get out of his seat. The student would ask permission to use a pass to go to the garbage, the pencil sharpener, or another area. I included a photo of my data recording sheets, but they're a little hard to see. As you know, this is my 6th year in Jacksonville working with individuals with disabilities. I spent almost 7 years working at a private Catholic school with about 140 girls with disabilities, thus my picture of the nun, which I found funny. I was a tutor for 3 summers at a school for children with dyslexia in eastern Kentucky, and I am the parent of a child with a learning disability. My first impression of the placement with Miss Blakely was one of relief, because I already knew her. I have been in her classroom prior to this placement. I knew what to expect. The only change was that she has a 3rd grade class instead of a 2nd grade class that she has taught for years. My belief about special education has not changed much over time. They may have evolved, but they have essentially stayed the same. This field experience has had little to no impact on my belief and knowledge regarding including students with disabilities in the general education setting. On occasion, I think that some students with disabilities placed in Gen Ed shouldn't be there. I don't think it is fair to the other students when one student constantly disrupts the class and brings teaching and learning to a halt. I do not have any new questions about teaching students with disabilities. Some examples of practices and materials that I plan to incorporate into my future classroom include watching the Fat City video every year just before school starts during those teacher work days. I think that would help me and remind me to be more understanding and promote an inclusive classroom for all. Another thing that I'm much more cognizant of is the placement of desks and furniture in the classroom and the ease of movement. I will keep working to use person-first language instead of identity-first language. I hadn't really given it much thought before this class and our discussion on it. I love the token award systems and PBIS. I actually ran the PBIS system for Northwoods Middle School one year along with the SRO officer. It was a great experience. I do not like systems that humiliate students like the clothespin one or that moves clips with names of students on them. No one likes being singled out. And as teachers, we should not humiliate and tear down our students when we have difficult students. Sometimes they need to know that we care and what we want for them is to succeed and not fail. This is the end of my presentation. Have a great summer. Thanks.